Welcome to the show. This is the Frankly Fantasy Football Podcast, Fantasy Football for the Average Joe. We are your hosts, Frankie and Johnny. Frankie, we are here, brother. This is episode 25 of season 2. It's Super Bowl week, man. We made it. We made it. This is week 17 of the NFL. What a damn season, man. It's been absolutely incredible. It's been insane. It's kept me on my toes, and I watch this shit every single day. It's nuts, man. Let's talk about what happened last week. What's our status? We've been monitoring where we are in our leagues. What's going on? Lay it out for me so far.
John, it was adventurous, fun, exciting, insane. Last night, I was so stressed out. I'm drinking fucking bourbon, sitting there until like 11 o'clock at night, sweating, smiling, happy, sad, everything. It was amazing. So what I'm getting at is I am in a Super Bowl in our Super Flex League. I had to, John, I'm not even, it was against Johnny, guys, but here's the deal. No shame or anything against this dude. And it's not because we do a podcast together. It's not because I love the guy. It's because his team was so fucking good and my team was also very good. It was truly a clash of the Titans. It came down to within 2 points. And it was really down to the wire. I mean, John, hats off to you, man. It was incredible. So I am in a Super Bowl in that league, and I lost in the semis in another league, but I am fighting for third place for $100 in that league as well. Johnny, I think you also have some exciting news too, though.
You son of a bitch. God damn it. I didn't finish watching the game. I ended up falling asleep. I saw you calling me at 11:30 at night, and I went, God damn it, Frankie beat me. Son of a bitch. Gerald Everett needed one catch to beat you. One catch to beat you. You beat me by 2 points. What a slugfest. We both scored a ton. It was not like one of us took a shit. No. It was great, man. It was just wonderful to be playing against you because we know the winner, whoever won this game, is probably winning the title, man. Good for you. You're in a Super Bowl. Congratulations. You won some money this year already. Great work, man. Me personally, I dominated my way into the Super Bowl, just scoring and scoring, piecing together my team. This is what's important about fantasy football. It's not having the scary names on there. It's not always having the Kelseys and the Tyreek Hills and the Stephon Diggs and Jeffersons. It's piecing together. I manufactured wins every week with pickups, with trades. I'd pick a guy up just for a short period of time and then move him, anticipating when the ups and downs and ebbs and flows are going to be. I got to tell you, I'm not going to toot my own horn, but I mean, just masterfully played all season long with not a very scary team. Just guys that are getting you the right points when you need to. I'm in a Super Bowl. Let's shout out some Frankly Fantasy Football potential titles here. We've got some friends of the show, family members, friends of the family, guys that are hitting it, women that are hitting it. It's beautiful, man. A lot of listeners are in their Super Bowls, and that makes me feel good. Awesome. I'd love to think, hopefully, maybe we helped you get one victory or just helped you along the way somehow. I hope that happened. Frankie, let's shout out some people, shall we?
Yes. Absolutely. Johnny, I'm going to go ahead and take the first swing at this. I am really proud. So there's 2 people that I really want to give massive love to. They're really important people in my life. And we just had this person on last week who was pumped up as hell about her matchup against Heather McGlone here. I'm talking about Alyssa Laurie, who ended up winning her Super Bowl against Heather. So Heather, great job, Liz. Great job, but awesome job, Liz. Again, we had you on. It was so much fun. Well done.
There's nothing better, real quick. There's nothing better than having a guest on the podcast, and that very week they win their Super Bowl. You can't buy that kind of marketing. Thank you, Alyssa Laurie. Great job. Congratulations. She's a champion this year.
Champion. Super Bowl champion. Love it. John, the other one that I really want to shout out is actually that of Julie Laurie. I'm saying Laurie a lot here, guys. That is not a coincidence.
Hey, that's your mama. Your mama is in the Super Bowl. That is beautiful.
So just a quick synopsis on her, guys. She started off in fantasy not knowing anything. This was 3 or 4 years ago. Absolutely didn't even set her lineups on a weekly basis. Didn't give a shit. To now she's in multiple leagues. To now every Sunday it's more stressful for my dad than it is her, because now she's the one screaming at the TV and not just my dad. So it's really, really wild. So Mom, Julie, champion in the making. Congratulations. We're really, really happy for your first Super Bowl run.
What makes me proud is, we just did an episode last week with women in fantasy football, and you've got your sister-in-law, my cousin, your mother, my aunt, both dominating, both in the Super Bowls, both representing the podcast. Great job, guys. So proud of you. So difficult to do is to make it to a Super Bowl. All right, who else we got? Hey, you know what? While we're talking about family, my son Jackson, 16 years old, first year doing fantasy football, dominated this year. He's in his Super Bowl. Great job, Jackson. Love it, brother. We got some other guys here. So playing me in the Super Bowl in our 14-team double flex league, just absolute
crazy
battle every single week. Every week is a struggle. We're not talking about a guys, dominating these leagues. I mean, you're hoping you can make it in. You're hoping you can do something. Playing against me, Matt McGlone, friend of the podcast. He's been on before.
Oh, yeah.
Dude is solid. His team is scary. Mine isn't scary looking at it, but I score consistently. His team scares the shit out of people, man. He came into the playoffs as the last seed, beat the number 1 overall seed, beat you last week.
Yeah.
But guess what, buddy? I'm sorry. I'm not going to lay an egg like those two guys did, okay? I'm putting together a team here, and we're going to fucking battle. Let's go. So congratulations, Matt McGlone. I'll see you on Sunday, motherfucker. All right, who else we got, Frankie?
John, we got Matthew. For those of you who want to know who the hell is Matthew, I will tell you. Matt Matuska, avid listener. He's a guy that texts me, calls me. He's actually one of my brother's best friends, and he is in one of our big leagues. He is going to the Super Bowl against your own Frankie here. So we're going to have a massive battle here. And shout out to him. He is also in another league and in a Super Bowl in that league as well. We have an opportunity for a 2-time Frankly winner with Matt Matuska. Shout out, brother. But you ain't going to win in this league because Daddy's coming. Daddy's coming. And John, there is 2 more. I really do want to shout these guys out. So, guys, from us doing this podcast, it's really been fun. It's been so fucking fun. We've had so many people just, asking us questions or just like tuning in. And one guy that we had on our very first episode of season 2 for video, very first time, John, we're testing out video. We had this guy on, awesome vibe, good presence, talking about my really good buddy, Ian Aniskevich, or as we say, Ian Sandwich. He is now in the Super Bowl against that of Tags, of Tagart. I'm talking about Eddie Taggart, baby, who is also part of what we call the Jeet. And the Jeet is a group of us 20 guys. We've been best friends since high school. It's crazy we're still that close. And it's amazing at the same time. Both of these guys who are also best friends are going head to head against each other. So it is going to be a blast hearing about that shit talk, hearing about who pulls that one out. So shout out Eddie Taggart, Ian Aniskevich. Well done.
Shout out to you, Ian. It was great having you on the podcast. It was great to virtually meet you on the podcast. And congrats, man. That was awesome. Episode 1 this year, and the guys in the Super Bowl.
Episode 1.
Love that. We've got a couple of people, man, that have been on the podcast, are in Super Bowls. That is just, awesome. It warms my heart. It's the best Christmas gift I could possibly get. Speaking of Christmas gifts, I want to shout out the Kelseys, okay, right here. Holly Kelsey, she's an avid listener. She is a fantasy football player. She got us a cup here with our logo on it. I'm drinking my liquid IV out of it right now. That's keeping me going in the morning here doing the podcast. Shout out to you guys. Thank you so much. That's so sweet of you. We've got a couple of gifts with our Frankly logo on it. It was great. Your wife got us the coffee mugs with the Frankly photo or the Frankly logo on it. Why don't you show what you got, Frankie? So, because guys, it's pretty sweet.
This is one of the coolest gifts I've ever seen. If you guys can see this, if you're watching this on YouTube or if you're listening to us, please check this out on YouTube strictly for this picture. And I say this because this is something that's important to me. My dad took it a step further, and I'm going to try not to get emotional here, but it's emotional. It's really awesome. He actually made from scratch authentic cornhole boards and was able to polyurethane the Frankly Fantasy logo, get it specially done. He did it from scratch and made these beautiful homemade cornhole boards. And guys, it's just like from the cups to Casey getting us the mugs to the cornhole sets, guys, into the shout outs, like, it's just, this is why we do this, right? Mm-hmm. This is why we do this. We love you guys. Thank you so much for taking that extra acknowledgement, just we thank you from the bottom of our hearts because it's so special. And I know I'm getting a little choked up and all weird. We'll get back to football here in a second. But just thank you. It means the world.
Thank you so much. Our listeners have been fantastic. I mean, Frankie and I, we stare at each other in these screens and we're just screaming into the void. We have no idea if anybody but us is listening to it. And then we get this kind of response on social media. We get this kind of response and gifts and just people reaching out to us. Thank you so much. We do this for you guys. And I'm glad that some people at least find some value out of it. So we are so appreciative to all of you. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for listening. All of you viewers and listeners, we love all of you. Don't forget, you can follow us on social media, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram at Frankly Fantasy Football, and on Twitter at Frankly Fantasy F. This episode is brought to you by CalSPRA Employee Recruitment Services. Tired of staffing companies charging high hourly rates to recruit subpar employees for your business? CalSPRA Employee Recruitment Services sets you up with a program that sustains a constant flow of new recruits coming to your door. How do they do it? It's simple. They had to. CalSPRA has owned a manufacturing business since 1989, and when the employee crisis hit, they came up with a system with proven results. No hourly fees for the employees they bring to your business, just one flat fee to get you real results. For more information, call now at 330-584-7759. Use the promo phrase Frankie and Johnny and get a free consultation for your business. Frankie, let's get to a little bit of news here and notes and see what's going on in the league.
The season 2000 yards just don't expect absolutely lost. Football.
News and notes.
All right, so we're going to focus here really. This is Super Bowl week. We know we don't have as many listeners. We know only people give a shit that are in their Super Bowls. We're just going to try to give you some information in this episode to give you some idea of what's going on, what you can do for your Super Bowl matchups. Let's get to some news, though. There's a lot. We filmed this early in the week, so there's not a lot of status on these guys, but I want to bring up a lot of these people just so you can monitor their status. If you have them, they're going to be very important to you, and you got to be careful. You don't want to throw guys out there that have a bum leg or make some good decisions. If they're questionable, if they're limited in practice later in the week, you might want to have plans on your waiver wire. Make plans just in case to be without them. All right, first of all, let's start with Jalen Hurts. This one's very important to me. I've got Jalen Hurts going into my Super Bowl, who took me there all year. Luckily, I was able to get Gardner Minshew, who really did well in his absence. So hopefully you guys were able to backfill Hurts with Minshew. He got me like 25, 27 points. But Jalen Hurts is day to day. Now, the fact that they lost this game to Dallas does have the advantage right now with the head-to-head matchup. If they would have won that game, they would have clinched home field advantage throughout the playoffs. They would have clinched that first round bye. They have not done that yet. So it's very possible they're not ruling him out. They want Jalen Hurts in there if he can go. They did not. I was listening to some doctors. Believe me, I've been all over this Jalen Hurts news to see if he's going to play. What I heard is that he could have played last week. They could have given him some injections and gotten him going. They didn't do that. So they're looking at possibly getting him in this week because they want to wrap it up now and then sit him in week 18. So keep an eye on that. I'll be monitoring very closely, believe me, but keep an eye on Jalen Hurts. You may be able to use him, but have another option ready, which I'm sure you do. You had it last week and it got you to the Super Bowl, so just get ready to fire that person up just in case. Looking at Lamar Jackson, not much of an update here really from him. They're saying he's working his way back. It doesn't sound great, but if he does get on the practice field this week, even if it's in a limited capacity, you should have an idea. But you've made plans without Lamar, but what a gift that would be if you could use him this week. This one was kind of weird. This popped up today, actually. Tua Tagovailoa in the concussion protocol. So it's very strange. It looks like it was from a hit that happened to him in the second quarter, which might make sense based on how bad his second half was. He was really questionable with the decision making. He's in the protocol right now, and that's not good. That's his third of the season. We remember how badly he got hit and how bad that concussion situation was when he had those two in a row mid-season. So it's very possible you could be without Tua this week. Teddy Bridgewater could start. So you may want to take a look at that on your waiver wire and just make options, make backup plans just in case. Ryan Tannehill, quarterback for the Tennessee Titans, will be out for week 17. They're saying he's probably going to be back for 18, but that doesn't matter to you in these playoffs. I've got him in my super flex league, so I'm going to have to make other plans once again. Here we have a quarterback coming back. This is going to be much needed for this team because the quarterback play has been really bad. Mike White Vic, coming back. He's going to return as the starter in Week 17, so that's good news. This is a guy you could plug in as well in a super flex league. Also, it's going to help Garrett Wilson because that whole team really struggled with the little fucking Mormon kid under center. A couple of guys here. These are some running backs. They're banged up. They didn't practice. That's pretty common this time of year. They give running backs rest, but you're going to have to monitor these guys. There's some scary names here if these guys could miss. Derrick Henry with a hip injury did not practice. They must win in Week 18, so it worries me that they could sit him this week and then have that battle next week for the division in Week 18. Keep an eye on that. Missing Derrick Henry in your Super Bowl would be devastating. Another guy, Tony Pollard. I mean, he's been a top 10 running back this year. Did not practice. Could just be rest, but keep an eye on that. He got banged up during that game last week. Aaron Jones also tweaked an ankle prior to the game. Thanks for the heads up, guys. We had no idea. Tweaked an ankle prior to the game. He was limited. He didn't get as many snaps as A.J. Dillon. That was really surprising. I needed him to perform against you, Frankie, and he did not. But he tweaked an ankle. Monitor his status as well. He'll probably have limited practice, but see what they're saying towards the end of the week. Jamal Williams, same thing with a leg. Monitor him. He left the game with a leg injury. Damian Harris could return this week. Could return. I don't know if I love the matchup with him, but keep an eye on Damian Harris. You might be able to plug him in. Same with Debo. This one's pretty shocking. He may be able to make a return this week. So if you've still got Debo, it's possible. I don't think it's likely, nor do I love throwing him into a matchup if he might be limited, but just keep an eye on that. Tyler Lockett, also wide receiver for the Seattle Seahawks. He could return. He had a hand surgery, but he could return. Apparently, it's not limiting him too much. So he's going to try to get on the practice field. Keep an eye on him. Christian Watson also left the game and was ruled out. Avoided a serious injury, but it's a hip injury. You're going to have to monitor his status this week as well. I know I have him, and I'm hoping he can get out there. Stay active this week, guys. There's a lot of people banged up. There's a lot of situational roster playing around with here with the head coaches. Some guys don't need to play because of their situation in the playoffs. Some guys must play this week. Keep an eye on everything. There's no, don't make any assumptions here on this stuff, guys. All right, Frankie, that's it for that right now. Let's get the Frankie and Johnny's Song of Ice and Fire. All right, man. We're going to get through this really quickly because we want to get to what's actually going on, what can actually help you. These are the guys that absolutely destroyed you. I'm going to whip off a couple. Frankie, why don't you whip off a couple? Zonovan Knight. A lot of these guys, first of all, were in the shitty weather games. The weather just destroyed fantasy for some of these games. It was brutal. That Thursday night game. Bunch of guys on here from the Thursday night game. Just terrible weather. We'll see what things look like this week, but that's another thing I want to talk to you guys about. Watch the weather. It's simple things. Kickers. Don't pick a kicker outdoors right now that's going to be playing in cold weather. Find somebody playing indoors. Find somebody playing on the West Coast or down south. Keep an eye on it. Seems simple, but it's very, very serious. Zonovan Knight, less than 2 points. Christian Kirk, 4 points. Stephon Diggs, this one, my God, man. I've got that Allen Diggs stack. Again, lost to you by 2 points, and Stephon Diggs got me only 3 points, man. Unbelievable. Who else we got here?
John, we got Josh Jacobs with 5 points. We also had, this one hurt, DeAndre Hopkins with 1 point. One point. Unbelievable. Aaron Jones, we mentioned, with 4 points. Zay Jones had 1 point. And John, this, just a few others to mention. I'll turn it back over. But Mike Evans with 4, Raheem Mostert with 3, Ramondre Stevenson.
Oh, that one killed you, man. That killed you.
3 points. Absolutely brutal, man. And, there's a few others here. Actually, I'll just round it off if you're good with it, John.
Baby.
DeAndre Swift, 3 points. Justin Herbert, 2 points. Garrett Wilson, 2 points. Justin Fields, 9 points. Guys, John mentioned it. If you had these, which I definitely did, especially in one league, it was brutal. It was tough sledding. It was not a good time.
I had a couple of these guys as well, and it's just it absolutely kills you, man. It hurts. Those guys are frozen solid. All right, man, let's get the fire. How about the strangest fantasy number one fantasy player of the week? Are you fucking kidding me? Please go ahead.
It was Cam Akers. Cam Akers. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Guys, here's what Cam Akers did, right? I'm just going to go from the points perspective because I don't even. He had 3 touchdowns. That's all you need to know. He had 35 points against the Denver Broncos. It was absurd. It was the strangest, weirdest game I've ever seen in my entire life. And that's why Nathaniel Hackett is fired. He's gone.
Definitely. Oh my God, to get destroyed by Baker Mayfield and the Los Angeles Rams like that, what was it, 51-13?
Something
oh my
like
God. That. Unbelievable, man. Most likely, Cam Akers didn't help you get to your Super Bowl because if you had him all season long, you probably didn't get to this point. Yeah. All right, this guy did help me get to my Super Bowl, though. TJ Hawkinson. How about that game? 30 points out of that guy. Real quick, just 13 catches, 109 yards, and 2 touchdowns, man. Beautiful job, Hawkinson. TJ Rockinson, baby. All right, who else we got here, man? Name a couple.
John, we got CeeDee Lamb. He ended up having 30 points, which he definitely helped me out, buddy. Definitely helped me out against you. He had 11 targets, 10 of those, 2 touchdowns, 120 yards, just doing all the things. CeeDee Lamb, John, and this next guy, I got to keep hitting on him. I almost wish I would have chose him as my champion, you know, because Matt Ryan really has been just absolutely putrid shit. I'm talking about Jared Goff, guys. Jared Goff has been excellent for majority of the season. He had 29.7 points. We round up here. 30 points with Jared Goff. Unfreaking believable.
Yeah, another quarterback with 30 points. Joe Burrow just dominating the end of the season here. He really came. He was iffy in the beginning of the year, but man, does he come on strong towards the end here. Guy's just playing like a champion. 375 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. I mean, just tossing the ball all over the yard. Who else, man?
So, John, we also got Devontae Smith, and he ended up leading the Eagles this week. Very interesting. With Gardner Minshew at the helm, he went berserk. He had 12 targets, caught 8 of them for 113 yards and 2 touchdowns. Devontae Smith had 28 fantasy points. Unbelievable.
2 more guys,
3
more guys with 28 points. Let me get through these. 28 points, boom, boom, boom. George Kittle, 28 points. God, that had to taste great. Dak Prescott, 28 points. Gardner Minshew, 28 points. Way to pull that off, brother. Hopefully you guys plugged him in for your Jalen Hurts being out there. Josh Allen, 27 points. Patrick Mahomes, 27 points. Just every single week on goddamn fire, man. Justin Jefferson, JJ, 26 points, and going with him is Kirk Cousins, another 26 points. Those guys are freaking playing on fire as well. All right, Frankie, anything else on fire here, baby?
Just real quick, really interesting note. Devontae Smith, guys, based on that performance, number 9 receiver on the year.
No kidding. Wow.
PPR.
Wow, that's beautiful. That's beautiful, man. I love it. All right, buddy, let's check out The Wire. What do you got for us here? Some of us, we're both in Super Bowls, and we're both going to need a few people. I listed off some guys that did not practice, that are questionable. Who can we pick up off the waiver wires and maybe have waiting there just in case we need them for our Super Bowl?
Yeah, guys, and there's a few. There is definitely a few here. Number 1 being DJ Chark has a wonderful matchup against that of Chicago. What we're starting to see is, as long as there's decent weather to a certain degree and the game script is calling for it, DJ Chark is absolutely in the fold. This is a really, really good matchup. Jared Goff is playing well, and they have something to play for. They literally still have an opportunity to get into the playoffs from an NFL perspective. So DJ Chark is very interesting. Could be somebody that you could look to start in a deep league in your flex position. John, this other guy here is also very interesting. Is also a guy that you could potentially look to start in your flex position. This isn't crazy. Jahan Dotson, a rookie from that of the Commanders, guys. He has 3 touchdowns in the last 3 games. He is playing against a Browns defensive secondary who is terrible. And the thing is that Denzel Ward will be matched up against Terry McLaurin. You'll have Newsome against the number 2, against Curtis Samuel. Jahan Dotson has an opportunity to be big play this week against the Browns. So look out for that matchup.
The guy's been a touchdown machine, man. He's been an absolute He's got 7 touchdowns in 10 games that he's played this year.
Repeat that one more time.
He's played in 10 games, and the dude has 7 touchdowns. And we're not talking about a game where he had 3 or 4 touchdowns. It's 1 touchdown, 2 touchdowns. The guy scores consistently when he's in the game. He's targeted heavily in the red zone. Get him in your lineup. I feel good about it.
Yeah, totally agree, man.
Yeah.
And then there's really just one other guy, and then I'm going to list off a flyer duo. So one other guy is Tyler Algier. Again, we nailed this last week. We nailed it the week before. Guys, if he is still on the waivers, pick him up. He has a very good matchup against the Cardinals. He's been really doing well as the bell cow. He has an opportunity to continue to shine, especially with Desmond Ridder at the helm. Also, they are still in the thick of the playoffs, guys. So this is a team that really needs to win. So they're going to utilize their star players as much as possible, or their young studs, that one being Tyler Algier.
Yeah, in the last 2 weeks, he's been the starter. I mean, we've got 2 weeks of data to show this, and they're running the ball like crazy, especially with the rookie quarterback taking over. But yeah, Tyler Algier, if he's still in your waivers, he's still like only 40% owned, man. I mean, we talked about this last week. That's insane. He's getting more work, easily getting more work than Cordero Patterson. So this is their future. They want to see what their rookies have. Dude's going to get some play against the Cardinals. You can run all over these guys. Get him in your lineup. You could start Dotson and you could start Algier in your Super Bowl. I feel good about it.
John, and to that point, guys, for Algier, right? 17 rushes last week for 139, or 2 weeks ago for 139. This past week, 18 rushes for 74, and is now being targeted in the receiving game with 5 targets, catching 4 of those for 43 yards. Guys, he's being utilized. Fire him up. And John, this last duo is interesting. You're going to have to make a decision. Maybe they both go off. Maybe they don't. This is out of desperation if you need somebody. Richie James or Hodgins, okay? These guys there's actually sustainable substance for fantasy here between these two guys. And so it is going to be a flyer. You may or may not want to pick them up. Maybe you want to play keep away just in case. Those two guys might be interesting, John.
Yeah, definitely. All right, man, let's hit it and quit it. All right, baby. We're going to do something a little different today, guys. This is Super Bowl week. We're just going to kind of talk about some people that we like. We're looking at the schedules right now. We're looking at all the players, and we're just going to talk about some guys that we think have great matchups that you should definitely fire up. Some guys that maybe don't, that you should really consider sitting and looking for other options for. Frankie, I'm going to talk. Last week, I just have to bring up, you nailed the guys that you loved last week. Saquon with 23 points. Your San Francisco defense with 12 points. You had Cam Akers as your flex appeal. Are you fucking kidding me with that, man? Frank Stradamus does it again. Crazy. Cam Akers versus Denver, a great defense. That was your flex appeal. 35 points out of him, man. So the top guy of the week, and you called it. So you know more than any of us, man. I can tell you that. All right, let's look at this Thursday game. We've got the Cowboys versus the Titans. It's a pretty big spread, man. Cowboys are giving 10 points. You're firing everybody up on Dallas. Who do you love? Anybody in this game? Is there somebody that you love or you absolutely hate?
I think absolutely love CD. I think the trajectory he's on, I actually think he's the number one receiver with this type of matchup. I think that the Titans secondary is just completely decimated. I think, again, CD Lamb is that guy. Fire up Zeke. He's a must. You got to fire him up with Tony Pollard. Dalton Schultz, love him. Might be able to even get some work from Michael Gallup, the way he's starting to come on towards the end of the year. But for me, man, it really is Dallas. Fire up the normal guys, status quo. John, hot take. Nobody on the Titans outside of Derrick Henry, assuming he doesn't play. I am not risking one person.
No, I mean, the way the tight end landscape's been, it's been a damn nightmare. You could look at Chig.
You could.
But I just don't feel good about anybody else. With Tannehill out there, with Tannehill Malik being
Willis,
out, with Malik Willis playing, you can't play any of the receivers, man. I mean, somebody might get lucky, but I'm not playing any of those guys in my Super Bowl. You know who I do love this week? And this is a guy I traded with you for. specifically for his playoff matchups, James Conner, running back for the Arizona Cardinals. His what he's done over the past couple of weeks has been absolutely beautiful, and he's got an amazing matchup this week. I am really looking forward to using James Conner in my Super Bowl matchup. He's at Atlanta. They're indoors playing the Falcons, which is a very porous run defense. James Conner's been getting catches out of the backfield. He's going to be a stud. James Conner could win me my Super Bowl this year. And in that same game, go for the running games in both of these teams, actually. Tyler Algier, like we just talked about, if he's on waivers, pick him up. If you picked him up, congratulations. You might have a hero for you, a rookie that could help you win your Super Bowl. Let's look at a couple other matchups here. You know, the Bears-Lions matchup is pretty interesting. This one's going to be indoors as well. Thank God. All the Lions will be able to help you out. Who do you love in this game?
So, John, really, again, guys, we're talking about those outside of the realm of course, you fire them up. We're talking about RB2s, receiver 3s as flex.
Yeah.
I like DJ Chark, and I like Montgomery in this matchup. I think that, of course, you're Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think that, as weird as it sounds, if Jamal Williams is hurt, I think it's a DeAndre Swift, right? At that point in time, in my personal opinion, I know I will be firing him up. But outside of those two, man, being DJ Chark and Montgomery, I am not willing in the Super Bowl to play anybody else in that, flex type of spot. What do you think?
Yeah, no, not really. I mean, even Chark, I think the reason why you could play him in your flex is because Jamal Williams is out.
Right.
I think, there's just more targets to go around now. But, I mean, this should be a pretty high-scoring game. It's indoors. I think Justin Fields is going to run amok. I think Montgomery should have a good game. The Lions have been good against the run, except for last week. They let two running backs, I think they had 280 yards rushing or something like that. Yeah, and Carolina guys who we said we didn't like. But yeah, I agree with you there. You know who I do like this week, and this is a guy you traded for. I think he's going to help you out, man, is Travis Etienne. He's been a little frustrating, but he's playing at the Texans. Shouldn't have any weather issues there. Etienne, he should have a good game. I mean, I know the Texans have been surprising recently the way they've been playing teams, but that's good even though for Etienne, because if they keep the game script even or close where the Jags have to play, Etienne's going to be very involved. So if they do play him well, he's going to get a lot more catches out of the backfield. But if the Jags end up just boat racing these guys, that's good for Etienne as well. So I don't think you can lose with Travis Etienne this week. Do you agree?
I totally agree. I think the Jags are now getting into a serious rhythm in terms of they need to continue down the path of what they're doing because they are in playoff contention, in real playoff contention. So I agree, man, 100%. I think they're going to rely on Lawrence, Etienne, and I think one other guy outside of the Christian Kirk, who is in my opinion is already established receiver 2, he should be on your team, is Zay Jones, John.
Yeah, he's been awesome.
It's risky, but I like it. I like it a lot. I think
I do too.
Matchup. I think this is what you've been waiting on in a deep league, right? Zay Jones has been very productive this year, and I only see that continuing for this game. So again, in a deep league, Zay Jones is very interesting for a flex. I love Etienne. He should be okay from a running back 2 / at that flex position.
Yeah, I mean, Zay Jones has 4 touchdowns in the past 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just that guy. He's the big play guy, and he's just been getting a ton of targets, man. 8 targets, 12 targets, 7 targets, 14 targets, 10 targets. Listen, the way that Sunshine's been playing here, man, Zay Jones and Christian Kirk in a good matchup and good weather, these guys should all eat. It should be a pretty exciting game, I think, even though you wouldn't think that. Going to starting the year, Jags at Texans,
in a must-win game.
Yeah, must-win game. Jags are on top of the division right now. It's pretty surprising. It's cool. All right, let's look at Broncos. Just fired their head coach.
Yep,
he's gone. They've been an absolute shit show all year. It's been nearly impossible to start anyone other than whatever running back happens to be playing that week. They're at the Chiefs this week. This could be an absolute murder situation. Are you starting anybody? Do you feel good about Jerry Jeudy? If you're in your Super Bowl and you've got Jerry Jeudy, are you looking for other options?
Definitely. He's one of the guys that I'm sitting there looking at. I would not have him as my receiver 2, guys. He's a strict flex play. potentially. This is like, because right now it's a complete unknown. Nathaniel Hackett's gone. How do we know what the offense is going to look like with the new system? A new caller coming in, etc. Russ looks absolutely rusty, absolutely shitty, terrible.
Yeah.
He's pathetic, and so it's really been tough to rely on him. And Cortland Sutton might be coming back, so there's a lot of things kind of going on here. But he is that guy that I'm keeping a pulse on. If I have Judy, he might be an interesting flex. But John, the other guy that I think in this, again, I'm staying away from those receivers on Kansas City for my Super Bowl. I'm not willing to do it, guys. But there is one guy I am willing to anchor it all on, and that would be McKinnon. I think McKinnon, I would feel very, very, very comfortable with him being as my running back 2 or my flex this week. Again, this is a smash matchup because Isaiah Pacheco is going to be in between the tackles. It's not super great, even though we saw what Cam Akers did, so who the hell knows what's going to happen. But I like McKinnon and maybe Judy this week.
I think that this team is pretty much just given up. I think they have nothing left. They're deflated. They were going into the season thinking they could compete to go to the Super Bowl and win their division and all this stuff. I think they're completely defeated at this point. To get destroyed 51-13 by the fucking Rams, who talk about the biggest Super Bowl hangover I've ever seen in my life. My God. But man, I mean, come on. So I'm saying start the running backs. I think you could start both. Pacheco is very risky because this is still a very good defense. But again, we saw what Cam Akers did last week. I think they're just giving up. But McKinnon, 100% start his ass. I'll be putting him in my flex for sure.
Johnny, real quick on this. Judy or DJ Chark?
I'm going with DJ Chark. Way more upside. Yeah, way more upside and a much more successful passing offense that is going to score points. The Broncos might not score. They
Judy
just might not.
Or Zay Jones?
Zay Jones.
Okay.
Absolutely. Way more consistency, better quarterback play. And again, they're playing for something. This Broncos team is fucking deflated. They have nothing left. They don't care.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, let's look at a couple other guys here. Can you start? These are questions, man. I mean, this is difficult. This Colts team, can you start any of the receivers on this Colts team at the Giants?
Yes, and there is one, in my opinion, and it's MPJ. I think that in a deep league, Michael Pittman Jr., you can start him. And guys, what we saw from whether it's Matt Ryan, whether it's Nick Foles or Sam Ellinger, it's that he's still being targeted. Now, whether or not he's doing things with those targets, that's left up, to discretion, and that's a fair question. But for me, I will be starting Michael Pittman Jr. In my double flex league. Now it's a double flex, right? We're not talking an 8-man, a 10-man. We're talking about a 14-man double. So it's a little bit different. But yeah, John, I don't think it's a smash play. Let me be very clear, crystal clear. This is a risk, but it's something that I don't have much else better than that risk. And that's what I'm kind of debating.
So with this Dolphins game, Dolphins at the Patriots, I mean, obviously you're firing up the receivers for the Dolphins. Even if Teddy Bridgewater is the quarterback, he's still serviceable enough. My question is, at New England, potential shit weather, can you start either of the running backs for the Dolphins? Can you start Mostert or Jeff Wilson? I'm
going to be very clear. I'm not starting anyone in this matchup outside of Ramondre Stevenson, if he's playing, and the 2 receivers for the Dolphins. There is not one other person on either team for my Super Bowl that I would be willing to say, yes, I'm doing it. And that includes Raheem Mostert, and that includes Jeff Wilson, because it's exactly what you said, John, last week. If Jeff Wilson plays, the problem is now they're going to be splitting time. And what we saw was it was almost identical 50-50 split, except Jeff Wilson got the touchdown over Raheem Mostert. So for me, man, I am so staying away from this. This is not the game that I want to be leveraging any sort of risk on.
Now, in New England in bad weather, the Patriots' run defense is very, very good. And when you've got 2 running backs splitting time, I don't want half of the production against a good rushing defense. It's not in the Super Bowl, certainly. Yeah. Saints at Eagles, you're firing up all your Eagles. I mean, at this point, they got you here. Whether it's Gardner Minshew or Jalen Hurts, I mean, obviously we saw with Devontae Smith, he was on fire with Gardner Minshew. A.J. Brown's going to get his, of course. Saints, it's just Kamara, and it's only because you have Kamara that you're starting him. You don't love it. You don't feel good about it.
And John, there is one other guy that I'm thinking of, and it is Taysom Hill. And I say that because because you can plug him at tight end. If there was any other position, it would be off the table. But it's interesting because over the last few weeks, we've seen his rushing attempts increase. And so he actually got a touchdown against the Browns. Now, again, that was weather driven, right? They're trying to figure out, how to drum up some sort of offense. But guys, that could be interesting because maybe they want to see what actually they can do moving forward. Because again, the Saints are going to be in the market for a quarterback next year, 100%. Yeah. They have no receivers to help them out with. We have Jarvis, Michael Thomas on IR. Chris Olave has been hurt. And so really they have just Rashid and that's it. So I think Taysom Hill is a very interesting tight end. And actually, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is, John. I'm going to start Taysom Hill in 1 week or in one of my leagues at tight end.
Yeah, I mean, the tight end landscape is so brutal anyway that you could do worse. And the guy's going to get rushing. He may throw the pass. He might throw it a couple of times. I think the Saints at the Eagles, there could be weather in this game as well. So keep an eye on that. Yeah. I think the Saints' best chance at this point is to try to confuse the fuck out of the Eagles. And they do that. And they can do that with Taysom Hill. I think you're absolutely right, man.
And again, John, on this game, there's a lot riding. You mentioned it, right? So the Eagles need to win this game in order to take that number one spot. But also, the Saints are in the heat of it with that in their division. So this is a must-see, must-win type of game for both teams.
Oh, yeah, which makes it very exciting for fantasy football, man. Love that. Do you know who I love this week? And I know this is shocking, Frankie. I can't even believe it. I shit on the guy all year long, but just based on the information, based on recent history here, I like DJ Moore, the wide receiver for the Carolina Panthers. I played the stack with Sam Darnold and DJ Moore. I have Balls of Steel in DFS. Played that stack. They've been doing pretty well. DJ Moore has been he's been really producing over the past few weeks. I think you could start DJ Moore as a wide receiver 2 or a flex, especially a flex, this week. How do you feel about that?
I am torn. That is, but here's what's interesting. I'm torn because do I personally trust it yet? I don't know. We know the talent's there, and we know there is a connection. Like we see it. So here's what I am gonna say, and it's a super hot take. I'm going to start DJ Moore over that of Mike Evans. Yeah. I think Mike Evans, whatever's going on, is absolutely shitting down his leg. There's just something happening between him and Brady, fighting a little bit on the sidelines, not getting Mike Evans the ball as much as what he has in the past. And I think it's strictly because of the emergence of Rachaad White getting pass catching out of the backfield and Chris Godwin. I mean, Brady's found his guy. Brady's found the Wes Welker. He's found the Julian Edelman. He's found that style of play in Chris Godwin. And can you name another receiver outside of Randy Moss or Deion Branch maybe that was on, right? Think about it. That played with Brady on the Patriots. Really can't. Yeah. Maybe deep, right? And so it's always been that slot receiver. So John, to answer your question, I'm nervous, but I would be very okay starting DJ Moore over that of Mike Evans.
Yeah, I'm not even that nervous about it. I'm calling my shot, man. I mean, the past 2 weeks with Sam Darnold here, 6 targets, 7 targets, 5 catches in each of the games, scored a touchdown in each of the games. He's the guy that he's going after. I mean, this is the guy getting the target. So yeah, I feel great about DJ Moore. Okay, let's look at Browns and Commanders here. All right. There is a lot, and it's interesting, but it's a little scary too. I mean, we see Deshaun Watson's coming through. He's showing flashes. The game last week, you have to write it off. Why they were throwing the ball so much in that weather? It was just absolutely brutal. 31 passes in that weather. It was absolutely insane. But this week, it's in DC against the Commanders. Their defense has been getting better. Their pass rush has been getting better. But the Browns do have a good offensive line. Deshaun Watson can make things happen and escape pass rushes. Are we firing up the Browns? Amari Cooper makes me a little nervous. He's got that home away variant there where he's much better at home than he is away. I mean, all season long, it's been like that. What are we doing with the Browns receivers, obviously you're starting up Nick Chubb. The question marks are, do you feel good about the wide receivers, Amari Cooper, Njoku, DPJ, some of the other running backs here? What are you thinking,
John? I'm going yes to all of them, and the reason
Really?
being is because if we would have looked at that game last week in a silo, Deshaun Watson should have thrown for 3 touchdowns. Amari dropped one, DPJ dropped one. That was one of the best throws I've seen all year. And then Njoku dropped one. Now, granted, the wind was insane. For those of you listening that are out of state, it was 50-mile-an-hour gusts. It was negative 27 with wind chill. It was actually like one of those games that took your breath away. It was so cold. But, John, for me, knowing that it's going to be a little bit warmer, supposed to be, and you're playing against a Commanders team, it's just yes, their pass rush is getting better, but what we're starting to see is Deshaun coming into his own. So I think that, yes, I would feel comfortable starting both DPJ and Amari and that of Njoku in the tight end slot for sure. I think there's absolutely going to be fantasy value here. I actually think this might be a little bit more of a scoring game than what we think. I think both of these teams, from a linebacker perspective as well as a secondary perspective, are a little bit light and a little bit hurt. So I think there could be value on both ends of the ball.
Yeah, and on the Commander side, I love Jahan Dotson this week. Again, Terry McLaurin. Yeah, I think Terry McLaurin's going to have some really good coverage on there. Jahan Dotson, I think, is a smash play. I mean, it's almost a guaranteed touchdown in my mind. And I watch this Browns defense very intently every single week. Love that. Can you start Brian Robinson or Antonio Gibson?
This would be the game that you might be able to start Brian Robinson. What we see from the Browns is they're on a historic pace of terribleness in terms of stopping the run. So, I mean, it's honestly incredible how bad it is. And this would be the game. This is what you're saving him for in an essence. So for those of you who might need him as a running back 2, this would be a good matchup. And actually, John, the guy you're going to be going against in the double flex for your Super Bowl has him in that RB2 slot. And Matt, I think that's a really, really good. I think this is a really, really good play for him this week. I think you were able to get a good matchup, man. So yeah, I would be okay with Brian Robinson as an RB2.
Hey, can you stop giving my opponent in the Super Bowl fucking advice here, buddy? I mean, come on. But now, you're going to make me go through the guy you're playing in the Super Bowl and tell him who he should be fired up.
So, but here is the interesting thing. I would rather start, if you're looking at a flex, I would rather start Jahan Dotson over that of Brian Robinson in the flex itself.
Agreed. Definitely. Much higher upside in my mind. 49ers, the passing offense is confusing. I know Brock Purdy's a guy that you like, but Brock Purdy, he's a 16-point guy. I don't think he has a ceiling at all, but I think he has an extremely high floor. So I think Brock Purdy in a super flex, or if you're plugging him in to help you after the Jalen Hurts loss or the Ryan Tannehill loss, I think he can help you. Just manage your expectations on how many points he's going to get. The bottom line is they're playing at Las Vegas, no weather to deal with. They're favored by 6. I think they're going to run the shit out of the ball. So absolutely, I mean, obviously, it's going to be the McCaffrey show. Yeah, it's going to be the McCaffrey show for sure. But Ayuk, because this Raiders defense is so bad, Brandon Ayuk could potentially, I don't love it just because I don't think there's as many targets to go around, especially the deep ones with Ayuk. Kittle seems to be really benefiting after the Debo loss of being the main target for Brock Purdy, which of course, he's a safety blanket. He's going to catch those passes and get yak after the play. Same with McCaffrey. That's where they're living right now. And those deep balls down the side or the deep posts that Brandon Ayuk likes to run, I don't love it. I would find another option in Ayuk, but you want to throw a Hail Mary pass because you've been hurt with injuries, you could put Ayuk in your flex. I don't love it. I would look elsewhere in my mind. Anybody on the Raiders? Darren Waller? Can you play him?
Yeah, Waller. Yeah. And I say that because, he immediately came back after being finally healthy and producing and producing at a high level. So it's very interesting. So I do like Waller. Everyone else on that outside of the usual, stay away from.
Yeah. Another matchup here, Jets at Seattle. Garrett Wilson, thank God we can play this motherfucker again because last week he killed you. He's been really bad with just terrible quarterback play. Yeah, and I know the weather was a big issue as well. But this week, in Seattle. It's a pick game. I mean, it's a dead even game through Vegas. Yeah, it's a pick 'em. Garrett Wilson, fire him up. He looks absolutely fantastic. Should be good. Mike White back. I love it. I feel good about it. Anybody else you feel good in these games? You might get Tyler Lockett back, so watch that. DK is going to have an interesting matchup here. Sauce Gardner's going to be all over him.
Yeah.
It's going to be exciting to watch. I mean, Sauce has been amazing this year, but DK Metcalf is a big son of a bitch. There's going to be a lot of one-on-one balls, 50-50 balls. We'll see how that goes. Garrett Wilson, I think you can or not Garrett Wilson, Kenneth Walker. I think you can play him. The Jets defense is tough, but Seattle's at home. They're definitely going to try to run the ball and establish that. I think Kenneth Walker will be a safe bet as well. Vikings and Packers. All right, so the Packers receiving options here. This is where a lot of the question marks are going to be. Actually, the whole Packers team is really kind of a question mark, really. Christian Watson, he absolutely is the number one. He's banged up. It sounds like he's going to be able to play like I talked about, but watch his status. If he's good to go and if he practices in full on Friday, absolutely play Christian Watson. If he does play, can you play Doubs or Lazard?
I would go with Lazard, and I'm hesitant on Doubs because I feel like he has established himself as the clear-cut 3. I think it's very good.
Yeah.
But from a Super Bowl perspective, John, there's better flex options. We've been naming them through this entire list. So, but if Watson doesn't play, that's when Doubs becomes interesting. That's when Doubs comes into play over maybe a DJ Chark. Maybe you can make an argument against him over Jahan Dotson, right? Because now he's the number 2. And we're saying this, guys, specifically because of the matchup, right? We've seen what everybody's been able to do against the Vikings. They've been shredding them, right? And the Vikings have had to keep up with that pace. So this is a dream matchup for the Packers, and one that the Packers need to win. They are still in the NFL playoff contention, guys. This is not a throwaway bullshit type of game. This is a massive game for Aaron Rodgers. And so again, with those receivers, guys, if it's Christian Watson, roll with him and rock it out. And then if you don't have Christian Watson and he's still playing, I do like Allen Lazard. Somebody else is going to need to eat. This is going to be, in my personal opinion, a super high flying game. Yeah. And then if Watson is not playing, guys, Doubs becomes interesting.
Absolutely. Vikings, you're firing up everybody, man. I mean, there's nobody you're sitting in this matchup. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so the Chargers, you got the Rams at the Chargers. We've got, which is hilarious that they're at each other, that somebody's home, somebody's away. They play in the same goddamn stadium, So we've got the two LA teams playing each other here. All right, Chargers, you're firing up the studs, although I'm scared of Justin Herbert. I mean, the last 2 weeks, he's been in single-digit points, man. With all of his weapons at his disposal. He's got a really good tight end. He's got Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. He's got Austin Eckler. Your boy, Austin Eckler. You've been riding his ass for 2 years, man, and he rode you right into a Super Bowl this week. Sure, you son of a bitch. You're firing up all those guys. Do you feel worried about Justin Herbert? I mean, this is a good Rams defense, absolutely. Are you worried about Justin Herbert? Are you looking for maybe a plug-in play instead?
No,
a Mike White.
Yeah, for me, John, I'm rolling with Justin Herbert, and I say that because his ceiling is too high. I think that he's going to get it together. I think really just what it came down to this last game was the Austin Eckler show. He was able to run, and that's one thing that the Chargers haven't been able to do all year is run the ball, and they were actually able to put together sustainability from the running game. And so throughout that entirety of the game, which was fascinating to see between Joshua Kelly and Austin Eckler. So I'm rolling with Justin Herbert, man. I think that right with Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Austin Eckler, and that of even Josh Kelly and even Everett in some regards, right? There's too much there. And then against a Rams team, when the Chargers are also trying to stay in that playoff hunt, I think that the Rams are looking to be the upsetters of the year. I think that they are on a high after the Denver game. Baker has never played better than what he does when he has the underdog mentality. He might have actually rejuvenated some of those guys. So, John, we actually might see a true battle of LA this week. And with that being said, if it's going to be a game to where they're going to have to air it out, I like Justin Herbert, and I think that could be the status there.
So do you play, I mean, the only person on the Rams, you could look at Higbee. Baker's been targeting Higbee a lot. You think he scored twice this week? I think you could play Higbee at your tight end and be fine there. Cam Akers, can you throw him out? I mean, he scored 35 goddamn points this week. I mean, you have to play him, right? Chargers you can run on. It's just, what if the Chargers get up high, really quickly? Is he getting enough play out of the backfield and catches, to be able to put him in there? Chargers are favored by 7.
I don't know. And that's a really good question. Guys, for those of you in the Super Bowl who have Cam Akers, first off, God bless you, because you probably drafted him in the second or third. Secondly, I would personally stay away. I just would. I think last week was a fluke. I think it was a complete and utter travesty what happened with Russ. I mean, they were set up beautifully in the 20-yard line 3 separate times because of Russ throwing a pick. So that fed into it. So, John, you could. Guys, for me, again, I'm thinking about it. What would I do if I was in your shoes? I wouldn't. I would not start Cam Akers in my flex. Certainly not in my RB2. I'm not willing to risk it, man.
Not unless you're in a deep league, like our 14 teams, double
Fair.
flex.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't have other options. I'd be starting him back up. Yeah, I'm going to put him in there. But in a typical 12-team league, not unless you absolutely have to. You probably didn't get your Super Bowl with Cam Akers anyway.
Right.
Steelers at Ravens. This is a big game for both teams. Yeah, Lamar could play. It's possible. But the Ravens, you're looking at Dobbins or the Gus Bus. Are you playing these guys? They're risky plays, man.
Yeah, they're super risky. This is a very, very good Steelers defensive front who's literally playing for a playoff contention spot. So I think you could. If I'm leaning one, I would actually lean Dobbins, even though Gus Bus had a better showing last game. I would stray away from it. But it's an interesting play. Let me put it like this. I would probably start Brian Robinson over that of Dobbins or Gus Bus this week from a matchup, just to give you guys ideas, right? Yeah. Because that's what you would be looking at, right? Those types of decisions. I would definitely start A.J. Dillon over Dobbins or Gus Bus. So what I'm getting at, guys, if you have other options, go with those. If not, Dobbins might be interesting.
Would you start Isaiah Pacheco over Dobbins?
No. And I say that because I think that Dobbins will get a little bit more PT than that of Pacheco.
Yeah. What about a Devin Singletary over Dobbins?
Yes. Yes, I would. I would start Devin Singletary over Dobbins because I like this matchup.
What about Zonovan Knight? That one's interesting. He's playing at Seattle. You can run on Seattle. Would you play Zonovan Knight with the Jets over J.K. Dobbins with the Ravens?
I would not. And I say that because Michael Carter Jr. is coming into his fold again. He's stealing that receiving work. I just think that I would rather go for a high floor than shoot for a high ceiling between those types of guys in an RB2 or a flex.
I think I like Dobbins much more if Lamar does not play.
I agree.
Also,
I agree with that.
Yeah. What about the Steelers? Anybody on here? Freiermuth? We can throw the Muth out there.
Yes.
Yeah. Freiermuth.
There's 3, John. It's Freiermuth. It's Pickens, and it's Deontay Johnson. I really like Freiermuth. That's
Freiermuth.
Freiermuth.
That was your nickname in college.
Fire Sale. Remember that? I don't know. Shout out if you guys ever play zombies on Call of Duty.
Fire Sale.
Fire Sale. God, we used to play that until our eyes bled.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I would. I would focus on those 3 for sure.
All right, last matchup here, Monday Night Football in your fantasy Super Bowl. It's going to come down. What a piece of gold this is. Yeah, what a tasty morsel for everybody to stay up late and stress out what's happening in their Super Bowl here. You're probably not going to know because a lot of guys in the Super Bowls have these players on their teams. I love that. That's so much fun. Cincinnati Bengals at the Buffalo Bills. In Buffalo, watch the weather in this game. This could determine a couple of players if they're going to play. Because I was looking at pictures of Buffalo Stadium last week over Christmas, and it was bananas. So monitor the weather in this game. could make a difference for guys like Gabe Davis, Isaiah McKenzie. Who's the third in Cincinnati now? I'm trying to think.
Tyler Boyd.
Tyler Boyd. It may change if the weather's shit. If the weather's not good, I'm definitely not starting these tertiary options in the passing game. But obviously, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, you have to play these guys. Yeah. Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs, God, I hope I mean, you have to play him, obviously, but that stack has been tough. I think teams have been really just trying to wipe him out and make these other options beat them, and they've kind of been successful in that recently. With the Bengals, how good do you feel about Joe Mixon, though? I mean, he's been confusing.
He's been very
have to play him,
confusing,
though,
but
right?
you have to play him.
You have to play him.
This is the Super Bowl. You know what you're going to be able to get out of him. I think his floor, I know the last few weeks have been tough, guys, but I think his floor is normally higher than what it is. And so I love his ceiling as well. I think he could get some more passing work potentially. I know it's capped with Samaje Perine, but guys, I think this is a game that you have to do it. It's the Super Bowl. This is what you built this team for.
Exactly. Is there anybody in the Bills you don't like?
Yeah, I personally don't like Isaiah McKenzie this week. I think he's too much of a flyer, John. I think with what we're seeing with Diggs and Gabe Davis, it's usually one or the other. And Knox he's completely coming back into the fold as a top tier tight end again. And Allen is really loving him. So I don't like Isaiah McKenzie. And then I don't know how I feel about one guy, and I want to put this back to you, and I would love to know what the listeners and viewers think. Cook. James Cook. Thank you. James Cook.
Yeah.
He has really come on towards the end of this year. And he was fantastic last game. 11 rushes, 90-some yards, tutty, looking just absolutely amazing. But Singletary's the main guy. So, John, would you be okay? Now, this wouldn't be necessarily an RB2 play. This would be a flex play, assuming. Would you be willing to do James Cook over that of a Jahan Dotson, a DJ Chark, a Brandon Ayuk, a Dobbins? What are your thoughts on that? Because he has been progressing.
Yeah, he has. It's super confusing as to when you can trust to play him. I mean, that was against Chicago last week in shit weather.
In a blowout.
In a blowout, yeah. So this is not going to be a blowout, most likely.
No.
The Bills are favored by 1 point. Bengals have been on fire recently. Don't know what the weather's going to look like, but yeah, the running backs for the Bills, I don't know. In my Super Bowl, I don't want to have to put either of these two guys out there. I really, really don't. The Bengals defense is very good. James Cook has been awesome the past 2 games. Yeah, he had 11 carries for 99 yards and a tutty last week, but at Cincinnati, or I'm sorry, this is at Buffalo. No, this is at Cincinnati, isn't it? It might be. Yeah, I don't love James Cook. I think it's too much of a risk. If you're in a deep league, you may have to play him. I don't love it, man. I'd rather not if you didn't have to. All right, anything else with these matchups or these guys? Anybody else you want to shout out here, Frank?
No, guys. I mean, just do your homework, right? Leading up to him. By what I mean by do your homework, just make sure that you understand, hey, if this guy's hurt, here's my backup, right? Look at the waivers. Make sure you're focusing on guys that you might be able to pick up that are, some of the individuals that we mentioned, or maybe some of the guys that we mentioned on some of these matchups that might still be on the waiver, right? Because we're usually picking people from waivers based on our leagues, right? Because they're so deep that, a lot of these might still be there or might not be there. So depending on what you have. So guys, have a blast this week. Really stay in tune with some of these injuries, and good luck for sure.
Absolutely, man. And look at your roster construction. Look at the opponent you're playing. Is this the guy with the dominant team and you kind of snuck your way in and you're just thankful to be in the Super Bowl? If that's the case, take chances. Look for upside. Go high ceiling guys. Look for those guys who can catch that Jahan Dotson, who can catch a 50-yard touchdown, rather than take a safe player who he's going to get you 10 points. Look for the guy who can get you 25 points.
Of that.
Absolutely. Or if you're the monster, if you're the favored guy and you're playing against a guy who's not, who's going to try to, take chances, just play your solid players. Play your floor players. You want to put 1 or 2 guys out there. Maybe that's a risk that's got a high ceiling. Go ahead, but don't get too cute. If you're the dominant team and these guys got you there, play them if you've got them. Smoke them if you got them, baby. That's the theme of today. All right, let's cross the streams, man.
We'll
cross the streams.
Excuse me, Egon. You said crossing the streams was bad.
Cross the streams.
All right, who do you have for us, Frankie? You've been killing it with these streaming players for us. Who do you got and can help us out? Quarterback, tight end, defense.
It's been good, guys. So quick look back of last week. We had Brock Purdy with 18 points. We had Chig with 2 points. And we also had the defense of the Tennessee Titans that got 9 points. So really good decisions last week for sure. This week, I'm going to go back to the well with Brock Purdy versus the Raiders. The reason being is exactly what Johnny just said. It's a high floor. I love the fact that it's not super risky. Raiders can also put up a shit ton of points. So if that were to happen, some nice dump offs to CMC that he can break loose would only help you out. That and George Kittle. So for that reason, I like Purdy as a nice streaming option this week. From a tight end side, guys, I'm going with Cole Kmet. I'm going with Cole Kmet against that of Detroit. What we have seen is Detroit is putting up numbers in droves. They are very efficient on the offensive end. Thus, Justin Fields is going to need to throw the ball, but he can't do it all on his legs. And same thing with Monty. So his guy continues to be Cole Kmet. Guys, as a tight end, again, if he gets you 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 points, you are really happy. If he gets you those double digits, you're ready to party, right? So Cole Kmet is a good option. And lastly, guys, it is the New York Giants versus that of the Indianapolis Colts. Libby Colts. Terrible. Okay. The New York Giants. I just think that this Colts offense is just so bad. I don't know if I've seen anything like this downfall in my life, John, actually, of a team that had a top 3 offensive line, top back, was a playoff team that lost in a crazy game to Jacksonville, like has all the pieces, and they continue to suck. So for me,
how many times did Nick Foles get sacked last night? Because I know you
7.
started him against me in the Superflex League. How many times?
7 times.
Sacks. I mean, I think Indy's giving up as well. They seem to be, you can tell the energy of certain teams and what's going on. And they got Jeff Saturday just plugged in. I mean, they're literally, it's like picking up a guy off the waiver wire and putting him in as your head coach.
And OC.
And OC. They fired the OC first. That's right. Yeah.
And OC. Yeah. The guy never calling plays is now calling plays, and it shows. It shows.
Yeah. I think the Giants defense is very safe. Who's going to play a quarterback? Are they going to throw Nick Foles out there? Yeah, I don't know who they're even thinking for this week.
Maybe Elliger, you know?
Yeah, it's just a shit show. So good call on that. I agree. Start them up. All right, baby. That is our show for the week. Yes. Good luck to all of you in your Super Bowls. Good luck to us in our Super Bowls. Right. Listen, everybody, next week is our last episode of the year. It'll be episode 26 of season 2. We're going to recap. We're going to look at some of these guys. We're going to look at where some guys were drafted, who ended up being top 10 running backs, quarterbacks, all the positions. We're just going to kind of recap. It's just going to be kind of fun. See who did what. See who were surprises this year. See who shit the bed this year, the big bus. And maybe talk a little bit of what we might be thinking, who would be good for next year. So this will be a good episode to review, early next year to kind of see, oh yeah, where did those guys finish, Thank you so much for joining us. I want to thank, special thanks out to Anthony Sistone. Good luck to you, my friend, this year. Thank you so much for the music and everything you've done for us on the podcast. Liam Hickey for producing. Jesse Kelsey. I want to thank CalSpra Employee Recruitment Services, our sponsor. And don't forget, please follow us. We're still going to be posting in the off season. We're still going to be doing funny shit and giving some ideas. We'll be kicking back up again in July after the 4th. So get you ready for your draft prep. Follow us on social media, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook at Frankly Fantasy Football, and on Twitter at Frankly Fantasy F. Frankie, good luck to you in your Super Bowl this week, baby. Good luck to me. Good luck to everybody we shouted out at the beginning of the episode looking at Super Bowls. Frankie, anything else you want to say, my man?
Love you all. Good luck. And may the fantasy gods, Johnny,
you motherfucker, smile upon you. Bye and Happy New Year.